A cabinet reshuffle is just days away. While the president considers his options, there's a lot at play. We are in a state of disaster over the electricity crisis. Eskom's former CEO has accused unnamed, highly placed politicians of being complicit in ongoing corruption at the parastatal, and some members of Ramaphosa's cabinet have been publicly critical of him. So, will the president play it safe and just replace vacant positions, or is a big, bold move in the works? I'm joined now by political analyst Ongama Mtimka. Ongama, thank you so much for joining us. So what is your sense? You know, the president is known for playing it fairly safe and not making any sudden moves. But do you think the length of delay is a sign that perhaps we're in for a big, drastic change in cabinet?
Good evening to you, Sally, and your viewers. I think that we will get a little bit of a middle ground type of approach. One of the major areas of concern for the president is the role of the deputy president. He's got Paul Mashatile lingering, and if he took any decision that sidelined him, he would face an internal revolt within the party. The feasibility or the amount of the potential consequence that revolt may have in the short term is minimal, but given the vulnerability of the president as far as Palapala is concerned, that might quickly regain momentum. And the reason why I say it's minimal is because it's consolidated his position at the level of the party recently, but that may be short-lived if he takes a decision not to appoint Paul Mashatile, for example. So my view is that he might just end up appointing him as deputy president, hoping to clip his wings at the level of the party where President Cyril Ramaphosa still enjoys a significant amount of support in the new leadership of the party. With respect to the other roles, I think that is going to want to bring in some new blood, but generally that would be mainly from maybe the new eNCA, where people are brought in, but also he might just ask some of the people within the new eNCA who are expecting to come in now to wait a little bit until 2024 when they can come in. So we might just see not a holistic change in cabinet, which in my view is what is the most necessary thing to do in order to position to give the ANC a fighting chance, or in fact give the country a fighting chance by bringing in politicians who may be unencumbered by the politics of how we transitioned into democracy as a country.
Do you think the Cooperative Governance Minister, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, is safe? I mean, she's now running the state of disaster over energy, but also she very publicly did not toe the party line on the Palapala report.
I think that the limitations that President Cyril Ramaphosa had coming out of Nasrec 1 are no longer there, and there's a high possibility, in my view, that he might want to approach this cabinet reshuffle more as a purge than any other he has undertaken, simply because he's got a stronger political environment that supports him now compared to at any other time during his presidency.
So on that basis, would you see someone like Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu also perhaps getting the boot?
My view is that it would be foolhardy not because Minister Lindiwe Zulu and Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma ran a campaign against the president, but because of the lack of confidence they showed in his leadership. It cannot be that, in fact, I would have expected those ministers to pull what David Mabuza has done, to resign, so that they, as an act of protest against leading with a leader whom they had criticized to be so, lacking in leadership and credibility that, it makes sense for them to not want to serve under his leadership.
Of course, Palapala has gone quiet for now, but it's by no means gone away. There's a call from the EFF to try and revive the Palapala report in Parliament. We know that the DA wants an ad hoc committee, even though, of course, it was the whole report was voted against in December last year. But if we look at the EFF and the ANC, it's quite an interesting dynamic, because we're seeing this sort of deep tension, certainly towards the president. But if you look at local level, what's happening in our metros here in Gauteng, we're seeing the EFF and the ANC getting very, very cozy. What does that say to you as we head into the elections next year?
So reports that come from seemingly judicial or quasi-judicial processes help to add a degree of rationality to decisions of Parliament, as opposed to power-centric decision-making, where it is the seats that a party has that determine whether a motion is carried or not. So when you have a report, it always creates the basis for parliamentary conduct to be challenged in court on the basis of its rationality or irrationality. So for as long as that report still it remains unchallenged, it will always present an option for the opposition parties to be able to challenge any decision Parliament makes at the level of the courts for failing to be rational, for failing to ensure accountability, given the relationships between the majority party and the executive. However, the fact that you introduce some rationality test to a decision of Parliament doesn't suggest that the basis for making decisions are purely going to be rational as determined in a one-dimensional view. It may be that as MPs of the ANC engage with the report, they seek, as they did in the last meeting, to establish some rational basis for why there shouldn't be further action. And in the last meeting, the potential of the president to challenge the report, or in fact, the challenging of the report of the president within the Constitutional Court was one of the bases upon which the ANC was saying it was explaining its decision. Secondly, it also had taken ammunition from the report itself in terms of how the committee characterized the nature of evidence that it had in order to arrive at its own decisions. So I can remember Justice Minister Ronald Lamola citing what the report said about itself in order to justify why further action in the manner that the opposition parties were pushing for could not be taken. So point I'm making, Sally, is that it's good when we have reports that come from processes that have got a legal aspect, because they help balance what otherwise may be purely a balance of power decision-making process.
And when it comes to relationship between the ANC and the EFF, some political analysts have been suggesting that come elections next year, and if the ANC does indeed dip below 50%, the EFF will be there to help them make the numbers up and get them over 50%. But that might involve a really big compromise, getting rid of Cyril Ramaphosa, installing Paul Mashatile as president, with Julius Malema as deputy president. Is this just pure speculation, or do you think there's some grains of truth in this?
We have a degree of history in terms of how these parties have responded to each other's demands. The ANC has been sensitive to being perceived to be bullied or led by the EFF in a tail wagging the dog situation, and almost without fail in many instances have refused to agree to proposals that may be construed in that light. So I doubt that you would have a situation where President Cyril Ramaphosa is asked to withdraw from the presidency for Paul Mashatile, especially if you look at the political capital that President Cyril Ramaphosa has in the higher echelons of the ANC, from the top 7 to the NEC to the NWC. What is likely to happen is that a coalition that has got centrist ideas is most likely going to be what helps the ANC secure a majority within the National Assembly. My view is that whatever coalition is made or is arranged in 2024, it's going to be a coalition where there's the terms of engagement are perceived to be fairly equal, or most likely in favor of the dominant party, than an arrangement in which there would be huge blows for the ANC.
All right, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. I guess in just a few days' time we will find out exactly what the President has decided with that imminent cabinet reshuffle. Political analyst Ongama Mtimka there.